three golden goddesses called Din, Nehru, and Furore create the realm that will later become Hyrule, and then return to the heavens. Before leaving, they create the Triforce, which is made up of three constituent parts: the Triforce of Power, the Triforce of Wisdom, and the Triforce of Courage. The Triforce is left in the care of a fourth goddess named Hylia. The Triforce can grant wishes to anyone who holds a proper balance of the three virtues. Around this time, there's demons running rampant across the world led by the Demon King Demise. Hylia raises floating islands to protect the people of the realm from Demise, and after that, Hylia goes to work cleaning up the demons and eventually seals away Demise. Hylia wants to use the Triforce to make the banishment of Demise permanent, but gods can't use the Triforce, so Hylia demotes herself from a goddess to a human and is reborn as Zelda. The population of the floating islands develops the Knight Academy, which is a small army of cops and soldiers. Enter Skyward Sword. A young fellow named Link joins the Knight Academy and is a total pro. The demon lord Girahim is unleashed by Demise to hunt down the reincarnation of Hylia. Girahim uses a tornado to launch Zelda out of the floating islands and down to the earth. Zelda survives the fall and discovers that she is a reincarnation of Hylia. Link is told his destiny by an old man named Gaepora, who is the head of the Knight Academy, and afterwards Link finds the Goddess Sword, which was created by Hylia and can guide a chosen hero. The Goddess Sword is an intelligent item with an internal spirit named Feet, who leads Link to Zelda. Zelda unlocks her memories and her full human potential by cleansing herself in two temples, and then goes back in time to the sacred temple in order to improve the seal upon the imprisoned Demise by going into stasis for 1,000 years. Girahim tries to interrupt this plan before it can properly get off the ground, but Link intercedes while Zelda and her bodyguard escape to the past. In the present, Link fights some monsters, then finds a source of sacred power and uses it to turn the Goddess Sword into the Master Sword. After this, he uses the Master Sword to speak with Zelda in the past before her stasis, and then seeks out the Triforce. Once he finds it, he wishes for the statue of the goddess in the Sky Islands to descend to the surface, crushing Demise and reawakening Zelda. The day isn't saved yet, however, as Girahim snatches Zelda and takes her back in time to reawaken Demise before Demise is destroyed by the goddess statue. Link follows and defeats both Girahim and the reawakened Demise. The essence and wrath of Demise are absorbed into the Master Sword. Upon his death, Demise vows enmity against both Zelda and Link. This is the beginning of the Curse of Demise, a recurring curse that sees the one who carries the blood of the goddess, the spirit of the hero, and the manifestation of hatred, locked into a never-ending battle, and this is the inciting incident that leads to every other Legend of Zelda. The Master Sword is placed within the goddess statue for safekeeping. The surface lands become the Kingdom of Hyrule, and peace lasts for generations before rumors of the power of the Triforce incite chaos. Rauru, but probably not that Rauru, build the Temple of Time over the ruins of the old temple, and puts the Triforce in the Temple of Light in the Sacred Realm. Hyrule Castle is built close by for additional protection. The descendants of the royal family, having the blood of the goddess through Zelda, often have special magical powers. The royal family begins a long-lasting tradition of naming their princesses Zelda. Some years later, the Kingdom of Hyrule is saved by a tiny creature known as the Peccary. The Peccary seals the evil they vanquish in a big chest. Enter Minish Cap. Hyrule holds a Peccary festival 100 years after the Peccaries save the kingdom. The winner of the final tournament is a dark wizard named Vati, who proceeds to break open the chest full of evil, turn the current Princess Zelda to stone, and break the Peccary sword. A young fellow named Link seeks out the Peccary people, who call themselves the Minish. He teams up with a Minish named Eslo, who Vati turned into a cross between a bird and a hat. Don't ask, it's weird. Link then seeks out the four elements to repair the Peccary sword, and then turns the Peccary sword into the Four Sword, which allows him to turn into 4 copies of himself. Link then uses the Four Sword to defeat Vati, removing the curses on Zelda and Eslo. Many years later, Vati returns and starts terrorizing Hyrule. A young fellow named Link harnesses the power of the Four Sword and seals Vati within the sword itself. Enter Four Swords. Vati breaks free of the Four Swords and kidnaps the next Princess Zelda, and Link also springs out of the Four Sword and pursues. Link eventually defeats Vati, and Hyrule once again returns to peace. Enter Ocarina of Time. Hyrule collapses into civil war. A child named Link is left in the forest under the care of the Deku Tree. The war eventually ends when the tribes are united under one king. One of the leaders of these tribes is the secretive demon king Ganondorf. Ganondorf secretly seeks the Triforce, which was last recorded as being near Hyrule Castle. He begins to seek out the 3 keys to the Sacred Realm. The next Zelda has a prophecy that Ganondorf is evil and Link needs to stop them. Link arrives with his fairy companion Navi and one of the sacred keys. Link sets out to collect the other 2 keys, but upon returning to the castle he finds Zelda fleeing with her protector Impa from Ganondorf, as Ganondorf was in the process of attacking the castle and trying to steal the fabled Ocarina of Time. Link accesses the Sacred Realm with the 3 keys, but Ganondorf follows Link into the Sacred Realm and tries to grab the Triforce. Ganondorf lacks the required balance of the 3 virtues and is only able to acquire the Triforce of Power before the other 2 pieces disappear from the vicinity. Ganondorf's attack ruins Hyrule Castle and populates it with monsters. Link is still a child at the time and is in no fit state to defeat Ganondorf. Upon acquiring the Master Sword, Link is sealed within the Sacred Realm until he comes of age 7 years later. During this time, Zelda goes into hiding under the alias of Sheik. When Link awakes, Sheik sends him on a quest to break the curses on 5 temples. Link breaks the curses and then reunites with Sheik/Zelda, who has the Triforce of Wisdom, at the Temple of Time. Ganondorf kidnaps Zelda, and Link follows, falling right into Ganondorf's trap. Link has the Triforce of Courage, Zelda the Triforce of Wisdom, and Ganondorf still has the Triforce of Power. So Ganondorf attempts to reunite the full set, resulting in him being turned into the beast known as Ganon. Link battles and kills Ganon and becomes the hero of time. The sages lock Ganondorf in the Sacred Realm with only the Triforce of Power, but only sort of, because this is the location of the infamously convoluted timeline split. In the Fallen Hero timeline, aka the Downfall timeline, Link actually dies in his climactic battle with Ganon. Ganon is still sealed away by the sages, but Ganon possesses the complete Triforce and uses it to turn the Sacred Realm into the Dark World. In the Child Hero timeline, Link is sent back in time after defeating Ganon. He returns to his childhood in his child body, but retains his adult memories. So he tells Zelda about Ganondorf's plot before Ganondorf can attempt to steal the Ocarina. Ganondorf is imprisoned, and to make sure that Ganondorf can never acquire the Triforce, Zelda gives Link the Ocarina of Time and tells him to travel far away from Hyrule. In the Adult Hero timeline, Link is also sent back in time after defeating Ganon, which means that Link is no longer in the present. Ganon eventually escapes from his imprisonment, and without a hero, the gods have no other choice but to stop Ganondorf by flooding the world. The people of Hyrule survive by traveling to the tallest mountains and become island dwellers. The king seals himself in Hyrule Castle beneath the sea, but sends the next Zelda to live on the surface with a fractured piece of the Triforce of Wisdom. Back to the Fallen Hero timeline, enter A Link to the Past. The Dark Wizard Aghanim kills the king and starts kidnapping the female children of the sages, including the next Princess Zelda. Zelda sends a telepathic message to a young fellow named Link and his uncle, who are both descendants of the Knights of Hyrule. The two sneak into the castle, Link's uncle is wounded, and Link finds and saves Zelda before going on a quest to find the Master Sword. The Temple of Time is crumbled away, and Link finds the sword in a dark forest. Link confronts Aghanim, who had recaptured Zelda, but the wizard flees into the Dark World. Link frees Zelda a second time, and along with the other daughters of the sages, confronts Aghanim a second time in the Dark World. Link defeats Aghanim and then defeats Ganon. Acquiring the Triforce, Link wishes for peace to return to the world. Enter Link's Awakening. Link is later shipwrecked on Koholint Island after a training mission. Koholint is the manifested dream of a windfish, so the only way to escape is to wake up said windfish, which will destroy the island and its inhabitants. It's unfortunate, but it's what's got to be done. So Link collects 8 magical instruments scattered across the island, and then uses those instruments to wake the windfish and escape Koholint. Enter Oracle of Seasons and Oracle of Ages. The Twin Rova witches plan to resurrect Ganon with a cult ceremony. They kidnap Din, the Oracle of Seasons, and Nehru, the Oracle of Ages, from the worlds of Holodrum and Labrina. Link uses the Triforce again to access those 2 worlds, defeats the witches' lieutenants, and returns peace to each realm. Twin Rova kidnaps Zelda to use as a sacrifice in the resurrection ceremony. Link saves Zelda and interrupts the ceremony, so the witches improvise and sacrifice themselves. Since the ceremony was incomplete, they can only summon a lesser form of Ganon, which Link once again defeats. Centuries pass and the Triforce is split. Ganon recollects the Triforce of Power, the royal family keeps the Triforce of Wisdom, and the Triforce of Courage disappears, awaiting a new hero to come and find it. Enter A Link Between Worlds. An apprentice blacksmith named Link rises in Hyrule. A parallel universe to Hyrule called Lorule is discovered. Lorule once had its own Triforce, but they destroyed it in order to end a lot of civil wars. However, the lack of a Triforce has led to Lorule slowly deteriorating over time. The dark sorcerer Yuga attempts to kidnap the descendants of the sages and imprisons them in paintings. Link fails in his first attempt to stop Yuga and starts investigating with the help of Ravio. Ravio gives Link a bracelet that protects Link from being permanently imprisoned in paintings. Link tracks Yuga down and is turned into a painting, but this just means that Link can now transfer freely between 2 dimensions and 3 dimensions. Link continues to investigate and finds that Yuga is trying to resurrect Ganon. Zelda is kidnapped and Link follows Yuga to Lorule. Link meets the Lorule version of Zelda, named Hilda, who agrees to help him by keeping Yuga at bay while Link looks for the Triforce of Courage. Hilda then betrays Link, planning to steal Hyrule's Triforce to replace Lorule's. Through Hilda, Yuga acquires the Triforces of Power and Wisdom, but Link defeats Yuga with the Bow of Light and the help of Ravio, who is revealed to be Lorule's version of Link. Link then uses the Triforce to wish for peace to return to Lorule. Enter Triforce Heroes, also known as the least important game in the chronology. Link wanders the land and eventually finds himself in Hytopia. He signs up for a quest to break a curse that an evil witch cast upon the local princess. Hytopia is very fashion conscious, and the curse forces the princess to wear an ugly jumpsuit. Link defeats the witch and, in so doing, removes the curse. As many ages pass, the successive kings of Hyrule use the Triforce to keep peace and prosperity in Hyrule, until one king decides to break it into parts, hiding the Triforce of Courage and giving his daughter, the next Zelda, the Triforce of Wisdom. This breaks the long-standing magical prosperity that the Triforce had maintained, and the kingdom begins to decline. The prince desires the power of his father, and puts Zelda into a magical sleep in a sacred altar. This Zelda is very counterintuitively later referred to as Zelda the First, despite being at least the third known Zelda just since the timeline split. Enter Legend of Zelda, the first one. Ganon has finally escaped from the Dark World, so the new and reigning Princess Zelda splits the Triforce of Wisdom into 8 chunks and hides them across Hyrule on the premise that Ganon's goons can't possibly find them all. A young fellow named Link meets Impa, who tells him to seek out the 8 pieces. Link then proceeds to collect the pieces and defeat Ganon. Time passes as Link helps to clean up the mess left behind by Ganon. Ganon's living minions plan a resurrection attempt that will involve sprinkling Link's blood on Ganon's corpse. Enter the adventure of Link. 6 years pass, and the royal family symbol appears on the back of Link's hand. Impa identifies the symbol and tells Link to find the Triforce of Courage and revivify Zelda the First. Link battles a guardian deity and a shadow version of himself before finally uniting the Triforce. He uses the Triforce to revivify Zelda the First and stops the attempts to resurrect Ganon. Pulling all the way back to the timeline split in Ocarina of Time, we proceed to the Child Hero timeline. Enter Majora's Mask. The Hero of Time journeys so far from Hyrule that he breaks the rules of time and space. He gets transported into an alternate world called Termina. Termina has many characters and places that look very similar to Hyrule, but also distinctly different. Termina is on the brink of an apocalypse, and a large grinning moon is being pulled out of the sky to flatten everything. This is because of Majora's Mask, which is in the hands of a half-mad Skull Kid. Link travels throughout Termina to right the various wrongs of the land, using the Ocarina of Time to relive the last days of Termina many times in order to buy time. Link also finds some giants to help hold up the moon, and he discovers that it is Majora's Mask itself, rather than the Skull Kid, that is the culprit of the apocalypse. Link defeats the mask and gives it to a creepy salesperson. After that, Link's story falls into undetailed obscurity. All we know for sure is that Link does eventually find his way back to Hyrule because he has at least one child, and then he dies in combat. Back in Hyrule, years pass and Ganondorf is set to be executed, but as he still has the Triforce of Power, the execution can't kill him. The sages banish Ganondorf to the Twilight Realm, which is another dark parallel world to Hyrule. In the Twilight Realm, Ganondorf convinces a Twilight named Zant to invade Hyrule. The two are opposed by another Twilight called Midna, so Zant curses Midna and banishes her to Hyrule. Zant then invades Hyrule, turning it into a realm of darkness, and most humans become dark spirits. Enter Twilight Princess. The infection of the Twilight reaches the outer villages of Hyrule, including the home of a young fellow named Link, who is a descendant of the Hero of Time. Since Link has the Triforce of Courage, the effects of the Twilight don't turn him into a spirit, but it does grant him the ability to turn into a wolf, sometimes against his will. The Hero of Time shows up as an old curmudgeon skeleton who helps train the new Link. Link and Midna seek out Zelda, deal with the plague-like Twilight, and find the Master Sword in the ruins of the Temple of Time. Link and Midna then travel to the Twilight Realm to defeat Zant, then return to Hyrule to defeat Ganondorf. Midna breaks the gateway between the Twilight Realm as she leaves, permanently separating the two worlds. Hundreds of years pass and peace returns to Hyrule. Ganondorf is reborn into the Gerudo tribe and snags some magical artifacts and resurrects the wizard Vati. The two proceed to kidnap Zelda and her handmaidens and shroud Hyrule in darkness. Enter Four Swords Adventures. A young fellow named Link finds the now long-forgotten Four Sword. Link then quadruples himself and travels throughout Hyrule, fixing things as he goes, until he reaches and defeats Vati in his Wind Palace. As Link tries to leave the palace, he also encounters Ganon, who he also defeats. Now we went back to the timeline split one more time. It's time to look at the adult hero timeline. Enter Wind Waker. Ganondorf once again returns using the Forsaken Fortress as his base. Ganondorf kills 2 of the sages and begins searching for Zelda and the Triforce of Wisdom. The king reawakens from his slumber beneath the sea and his spirit takes the form of a small boat. The boat searches for the king's descendant and a new hero to take up the Triforce of Courage. The boat finds the king's descendant, who is a pirate leader named Tetra. The boat also finds a young fellow named Link, who is searching for his sister because Ganondorf has resorted to randomly kidnapping kids in desperate bids to find Zelda. Smart fellow. Link and the boat go on an adventure so that Link can prove his worthiness of the Triforce of Courage. This adventure mostly consists of saving Link's sister and charting some maps. After proving his courage, Link descends into Hyrule Castle beneath the sea and grabs the Master Sword. Link and Tetra attempt to attack the Forsaken Fortress, but the Master Sword proves nearly useless against Ganondorf and the two have to retreat. The king reunites the Triforce of Wisdom and helps Link find the Triforce of Courage. Upon returning to the Forsaken Fortress, the Triforce reassembles and Ganondorf attempts to reach it. The king gets there first though and wishes for the ancient Hyrule beneath the sea to be destroyed in order to make way for a new and better future. Link and Tetra manage to defeat Ganondorf and then escape Hyrule's crumbling underwater ruins. Enter Phantom Hourglass. Link and Tetra, who also goes by the name of Zelda now, are seeking out new land to re-establish Hyrule when they are attacked by a ghost ship. The ghosts kidnap Tetra and throw Link overboard. Link wakes up on Mercy Island and meets the local Ocean King Oshus and a captain named Linebeck. Link goes on adventures to catch the local ghost ship, finds another legendary sword, and defeats Oshus's enemy, the jellyfish monster Bellum. When Link and Tetra return to their ship, they discover that only 10 minutes have passed since they set out on their voyage in the first place. Link and Zelda eventually find a new continent with a large tower and a lot of rail tracks stemming out from it. They colonize this land as the new Kingdom of Hyrule, and there is 100 years of peace before problems inevitably arise again. Enter Spirit Tracks. The train tracks are disappearing and the new reigning Zelda wants to find out why, so she sends an engineer named Alfinzo and a young fellow named Link, who is a descendant of the previous Link. It turns out a politician named Cole is behind it and he wants to resurrect another Demon King, this one called Malladus. Malladus is trapped in the aforementioned tower. Cole separates Zelda from her physical body in order to provide Malladus with a vessel to control. This backfires for Cole though, as Zelda's spirit is instrumental in helping Link. Malladus eventually manifests as a huge evil train engine and Link finally defeats him. Skipping forward by a large amount of time in one or more of the 3 branched timelines, evil returns once again, this time in the form of Calamity Ganon. A hero and a princess, probably named Link and Zelda, seal Calamity Ganon away with the help of powerful machines of war called Guardians and Divine Beasts. These war machines are later buried as they prove too troublesome to have around. Thousands of years pass afterwards in relative peace. Enter Breath of the Wild. A young knight in the royal guard named Link quickly rises through the ranks and is proven worthy of the Master Sword. Prophecy states that Calamity Ganon's return is imminent, so the king has the Guardians and Divine Beasts unearthed for the next round with Calamity Ganon. The current Princess Zelda, however, is unable to unlock her bloodline magic during the initial battle. In addition, Calamity Ganon uses his dark magic to take over the Hylian war machines, further confirming Hyrule's defeat. Link is almost killed and is put into a stasis in the Shrine of Resurrection to recover for 100 years, while Zelda goes into a separate form of suspended animation in order to hold back Calamity Ganon for the time being. After being healed, Link reawakens with amnesia, but is guided by the Ghost of the King to conquer the Divine Beasts and to use their power to destroy Calamity Ganon. After heavily damaging Calamity Ganon, Zelda uses her magic to seal Ganon away. Enter Tears of the Kingdom. Link and Zelda find the mummified corpse of Ganondorf deep under Hyrule Castle. In the brief skirmish that ensues, Zelda is inadvertently sent backward in time, Link's life force is partially drained away, and the Master Sword is heavily damaged. Link spends the coming weeks unraveling what happened to Zelda and dealing with Ganondorf's monsters. Zelda went back in time, probably to either before Skyward Sword, somewhere between Skyward Sword and Ocarina of Time, or somewhere before Breath of the Wild but after all the other games. We don't know for sure. Zelda witnesses the mummification of Ganondorf and then turns herself into a dragon in order to repair the Master Sword. Once again, it's weird, don't ask. In her draconic form, she is immortal and slowly makes it back to the current day Hyrule. Link acquires the repaired Master Sword and defeats Ganondorf, and some ghosts from the past that Zelda visited restore her to her human form. And that's the end of this bonkers story for now.